Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's session, Introduction to AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps Seniors Senior Demonstration Program. My name is Linda Cook, and joining me today is Colin Evans. We are both with AmeriCorps Seniors. I'm going to just go over very quickly a few housekeeping points. All lines are on mute. If you have any questions for us today, we ask that you please put them in the Q&A box. Otherwise, all responses in the chat should be directed to everyone so that we all have the benefit of seeing your response. If you have any technical problems, please let Jeff know. He's our staff person on point today to help us with any technical issues. And the slides and the recording of this will be available on AmeriCorps.gov. This presentation is a series of training opportunities that we will have over the next couple of weeks. Some of these will be repeated as well. Today's session is on the Introduction to AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps Seniors SDP program. You will note that tomorrow and the following day, we will go into more in depth about notice of funding opportunity for Aarp AmeriCorps Seniors SDP program, as well as talk a little bit more in detail about the actions of some of the work that our SDP programs have been doing. Just very quickly, here's what we hope to accomplish today. We hope to provide some basic information about AmeriCorps, formerly known as the Corporation for National and Community Service, and AmeriCorps Seniors, which is formerly known as Senior Corps. We're going to review the Senior Demonstration Program objectives and key information to consider. As I mentioned, this session is a precursor to tomorrow's session that will cover the notice of funding opportunity for the American Rescue Plan in more detail. So if you're not already familiar with AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps Seniors, we hope that this presentation today will answer all the questions you have about national service. However, if you're already familiar with us, we want you to hopefully walk away with this as a refresher and know what your place is in national service, in the national service community means to you. Next slide. AmeriCorps, formerly known as the Corporation for National and Community Service, is the federal agency responsible for civic engagement. That means we lead civic engagement through service and volunteerism, through grant-making efforts, and national days of service in the United States. We help millions of Americans improve their lives and the lives of their fellow citizens through service. We do that mostly by working hand in hand with local partners to tap the ingenuity and can-do spirit of the American people to tackle our country's most pressing challenges. Our mission is to improve lives, strengthen communities, and foster civic engagement through service and volunteering. So what is national service? National service is the opportunity to volunteer your time and talent to make a difference in people's lives and to get things done for America. Through AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps Seniors, individuals of any age can serve our country and their community by putting their valuable skills to use. You may be familiar with AmeriCorps. AmeriCorps, the federal agency, engages people in service for a set period of time when they often serve in their communities or serve anywhere in the United States. People of all ages can serve in different types of programs, AmeriCorps programs, but they tend to skew a little bit younger than our program. AmeriCorps Seniors is specifically geared towards volunteers who are 55 and older. AmeriCorps encourages volunteerism through national days of service, such as the Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service and the September 11th Day of Service. If you want to learn more about AmeriCorps generally, you can visit our website. The website is listed there, or www.americorps.gov, and check out some statistics on national service in your state, in your regional area, and through social media. It is also the location that you can go. I saw there was a question about how you can sign up for future sessions. We'll cover that a little bit later, but it is at this website where you could sign up for future training opportunities. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our AmeriCorps Seniors 3 traditional programs that are separate and distinct from the Senior Demonstration Program. The first one we're going to discuss is the Foster Grandparent Program, or FGP. This program engages older Americans as role models and mentors to help children with special and exceptional needs. Eligible volunteers in the program may receive a small stipend to defray the cost of service. For our second program is the Senior Companion Program, or SCP, which provides assistance and friendship to adults who have difficulty with daily living tasks, such as shopping or paying bills, helping them maintain independence in their homes. And again, eligible volunteers receive a small stipend for their service. For RSVP, all of our programs engage individuals 55 and older in service, and that is really the core of our third type of program, RSVP. It was established in 1971, and it engages people 55 and older in a wide variety of volunteer activities. Essentially, if you could think of a volunteer doing it, there's probably an RSVP volunteer serving in that capacity right now. It was really built to meet community needs. It's very flexible, and also all of our RSVP volunteers, rather than the previous two programs that I talked about, focus on one specific area. The RSVP volunteers can tutor children, renovate homes, assist victims of natural disasters, and do other things. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the Senior Demonstration Program. Senior Demonstration Programming allows us to expand our program reach in a way that's different from our standard 3 types of programs. So I mentioned that FGP focuses primarily solely on adults 55 and older that are tutoring kids, exceptional kids. An SDP program may have seniors serving kids with exceptional needs, as well as serve their parents, like providing parenting tips or doing homework assistance tips. The Senior Demonstration Authority, which governs the Senior Demonstration Program, allows us to fund innovative programming. The expectation is that the activities will be carried out by seniors, but the program has a new innovative twist to demonstrate the power of senior volunteers to make significant contributions in their communities, just in general, as well as we will discuss tomorrow, how we can move forward recovering from this pandemic. So there are some bullet points there that kind of illustrate the Senior Demonstration Program. It can be described as somewhat of a hybrid of our 3 programs, but with a twist. The Senior Demonstration Program has the capacity of creating a different type of program to engage folks over the age of 55 to be engaged in community-driven interventions that address unmet community needs. We have a few demonstration programs currently that are $0 grants, meaning they receive no funds from AmeriCorps. And some senior demonstration programs are state-driven, state-defined, and state-funded. For example, we have several programs in Texas and Michigan that have senior demonstration grants where there is no federal dollars being used to fund the program. It is all being funded by the state. So let's talk a little bit about the senior demonstration program and where you can get more information about it. Next slide, please. Next slide. One of the things that we're going to do this year is to really use the senior demonstration program to help us amplify funding that we received from the American Rescue Plan. As I told you, our senior demonstration programs really give us the flexibility to use our quote unquote senior power to respond to areas and pressing needs in communities. And so what we wanted to do is introduce the AmeriCorps Seniors American Rescue Plan senior demonstration competition. Some key points, and these will be gone over in greater detail tomorrow. The AmeriCorps Seniors American Rescue Plan notice opened on November 1st. It's currently on our website right now. It's our call for new applicants or organizations who do not have a current grant with the AmeriCorps Seniors to respond to community-based needs illuminated as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are looking for efforts to help local communities recover from the pandemic, as well as applications that establish or support education that may have been lost as a result of the COVID pandemic, vaccination and vaccination education efforts, and particularly reach different communities or hard to reach communities. We're also looking for applications that actively engage in removing structural racial inequities, advance racial equity, and increase opportunities to achieve sustainable changes in communities. And one of the things that we know is as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of the racial inequities really were highlighted or magnified, if you will, as a result of the numbers of deaths that occurred or people who were significantly impacted by the COVID-19 virus. So we would like to receive applications or programming that really helps us move the needle a little bit more around issues of racial equity. Applicants are also encouraged to propose programming anywhere in the United States. Some of you who may have received funding from us in the past know that traditionally our programs focus specifically in a specific geographic service area. However, with this opportunity, you can apply for funding in any county, city, or town. Applications are also, we're hoping to receive applications that propose programming in priority service areas that are identified on Appendix A. And basically these are areas where there's high poverty or areas where we currently do not have AmeriCorps Seniors programming. So AmeriCorps Seniors will be programming our ARP funding in accordance with Section 231 of the DVSA, which authorizes the Director of AmeriCorps Seniors to make grants to public and nonprofit organizations for the purpose of demonstrating innovative activities involving older Americans as volunteers and for testing whether older American volunteer programs may contribute to new objectives or certain national priorities. The specific legal authority, the senior demonstration, is 42 U.S. Code. The regulation is 5028. By exercising this authority, AmeriCorps Seniors will encourage innovation as communities recover and build back better. And you'll notice on your screen, if there are questions that folks have regarding the American Rescue Plan Senior Demonstration Program, they are encouraged to send an email to the email address there, American Rescue SDP @cns.gov. And for more information and to review any of the resources as it pertains to the American Rescue Plan, there's a link there that's provided. I do want to take a step back again and just highlight how different the Senior Demonstration Program is in comparison to our traditional FGP, SCP, and Rsvp programs. Again, we're really looking for programs that maybe takes the best of FGP, the best of Senior Companions, Rsvp, combines them in some way, and is really innovative in addressing an unmet need that exists in a community. All the participants who serve as volunteers are over the age of 55. And one of the things that makes our SDP programs different, if you will, is that the agency is looking at what lessons can we learn as a result of this type of programming. Are there things that, does it call for us to develop a new program, or are there things that we can learn from our SDP program to strengthen our core 3 programs? We're really looking for innovative practices to fund through this, this line of programming. So, of course, it wouldn't be a federal program if we didn't go over some rules and regulations. We wanted to make sure that you were aware of some of the rules as it applies to all of our programming. The Code of Federal Regulations is the source of the requirements that govern our grants and our grant making. Please go to the website as noted there. It's the Code of Federal Regulations website, ecfr.gov, to review the rules and regulations. There's also plenty of links on our website that talk specifically about some of these rules and regulations. And if you are ever lucky enough to receive a grant from our agency, you will become very well versed in the Code of Federal Regulations, specifically 200. That really informs the guidance of fiscal responsibilities for all of our grant making. So some of the things that are key regulations that carry across all of our programs, including the Senior Demonstration Program, is that there are specific service activities that are prohibited. So your program design, you are not allowed to present something that displaces or replaces paid staff. No political activity can occur at all during any time on grant time. There's also a requirement that no religious activity occurs for our programming. We also have National Service Criminal History Check requirement for all of our programs where funds are being used to pay staff or volunteers. And there's a link there that goes in great detail about the criminal history check requirements. So if you're interested in applying for SDP program or any of our programs, really, I highly suggest that you go to the site and review this information so that you are well aware of the requirements to conduct criminal history checks on both staff and paid volunteers. So I think we have a little bit of time now for Q&A. I see some questions that are in the Q&A, so I'm gonna ask Colin to help me with those questions.
Sure, thanks, Linda. All right, so just going through. So one is when I look at Appendix A, I see the counties that we serve are not located on it. Can you still apply if your counties aren't showing in the appendix?
For SDP programming, you can, for the American Rescue Plan, yes. You can apply for any county that's recovering for COVID. If it's not on Appendix A, that's fine. The ones that are on Appendix A are ones that are a priority for us, if you will, because they address communities where there's a high poverty need or a community that we don't currently have AmeriCorps Seniors programming.
All right, and then there's a slightly similar one, which is if AmeriCorps Seniors already has a presence in my area, can my organization still apply for the American Rescue Plan Senior Demonstration Program?
Yes, yes, you can still apply, provided that you're not doing, the same thing that organization is doing in their community. And I imagine that since the Aarp SDP notice is specifically calling out recovery from the COVID pandemic, both financial, economic, and health challenges that may have arisen through it, it's a good chance that what you're providing is different.
All right, and then the next question is, when you say all volunteers have to be over 55, can there be volunteers under 55 funded by other sources?
Like I said, the SDP program model is, we're looking for innovation. So if you have volunteers that are under the age of 55 that are serving, alongside the volunteers who are 55, as long as their activities are not counted towards the performance measures and the progress reports that are required from our programs, I think that that's fine.
Okay, and then we also have a similar question that came in after that I think your answer also addresses is, do we have to turn away volunteers who are younger, or just clearly define that the funding is applied to senior volunteers and make that the focus? Yeah,
so our funds can only be used to support volunteers who are over the age of 55. However, there's a volunteer component where younger volunteers are engaged with older volunteers, and those younger volunteers are not being compensated in any way by the grant. I'm sure that is something that we can learn from.
All right, thank you. Then there's one that says, is there matching requirement for the Senior Demonstration Program grant?
I knew somebody was going to ask me that question. There is a 10% match required for this program, and we'll get into greater detail about that during tomorrow's training.
All right. Are the grant funds to be used to stipend volunteers?
Not sure I understand the question.
Perhaps are grant funds able to be used to provide a stipend to volunteers?
Yes, yes. Yes, the grant funds can be used or should be used to provide the stipend. Unless, if you have state funds, those can also be used to provide the stipend as well.
All right. There is a request to please define a paid volunteer.
A paid volunteer?
Perhaps that means with the stipend as well, is what I'm getting.
Okay, well, I'll try to answer it this way, and if I don't answer the question, please provide some clarification. So, two of our programs, the Foster Grandparent and the Senior Companion Program, provide a small stipend for folks. And that amount is provided depending on how the agency's payroll structure is. They could receive a stipend, once a week or twice a week, or no, I'm sorry, once a week, once every 2 weeks, or once a month. It just depends on how the sponsoring organization's payroll is set up and handled. So that is not a salary, is a little bit of money to kind of offray some of the costs of volunteering. Like, people can use it to pay for the gas to get to the service location or to do things like that. So is that what the question is pertaining to, what we mean by paid volunteers? Let me know if I didn't answer your question.
All right. Does no political activity mean you cannot interact with state legislators or policies that impact older people?
That means you can't do lobbying or legislative action. Of course, you can invite your elected officials to visit your program, educating them about the great work, the great service that's being provided is one of the things that we encourage and love to see happen. So the political is like advocating for a particular candidate, or trying to engage in something to encourage folks to vote on a specific bill. Those are the types of political activities that are not allowed using our federal dollars.
And then a similar question, but this is about religious programming. Says, I understand the requirement that no funds can be used for religious activities, but does that prevent us from having religious programming in our organization?
As long as it's not on the program, on the grant program's time and effort, whatever occurs, outside of the grant time is your own personal business and the business of the organization. The religious proselytizing speaks to requiring volunteers to participate in prayer service, for example, or requiring volunteers to, ascribe to a specific religious belief. That is what we mean by religious activities.
All right. The next one is, if my organization is already receiving ARPA funding via a different source, i.e. government agency, city, county, are we still eligible to apply?
Yes, as long as it's not funding from AmeriCorps Seniors.
All right. And then just a quick reminder for those who are putting the questions in the chat, if you can use the Q&A feature, it just helps us keep track of your questions a little bit easier. So okay, there is a question. So what is the maximum number of senior volunteers one organization can apply for?
There's not a maximum number set.
Let's see.
Are there any questions specific to the design of an SDP program? Because I feel like a lot of these questions are related to the ARP notice, which we will go into detail about tomorrow. So are there any just general questions about the SDP program?
All right, I'm looking through a couple of the questions about just general questions.
Mhm.
Let's see. So there's a couple questions about stipends that we've already answered,
Mhm.
And other compensation.
I see the question from Zubin, hope I'm saying your name right, Siegel. It says we received an RSVP and an SCP grant in 2020 that is currently in operation. I want to confirm that this means we are not eligible for this SDP funding opportunity. And that would be the ARP funding opportunity. And that is correct. If you currently have a grant with us, then the opportunity to apply for the ARP funding was earlier this year. So this third round of funding that we have now is for folks who don't currently have an operating grant with us or people who are brand new to the agency. There's a question about, can you apply if you're not a nonprofit? You have to have DUNS number and some other things. So you have to be a nonprofit.
All right, and then we do have a question asking to clarify, I guess, eligibility for those who already have an SCP, FGP, or RSVP program, why they cannot have a senior demonstration program as well, at least under this particular notice.
Under the ARP senior demonstration project,
Yes.
our intent is to bring on new funding. The second opportunity of phase 2 for American Rescue Plan was open only to current grantees. That opportunity has closed. So in this third round,
Linda, I think we may have lost your audio. Okay, I think that we just temporarily lost Linda on the audio, but we will keep a record of the questions. I think she's coming back. Linda, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go. Okay, perfect.
Oh, okay.
Welcome back.
Thanks. My internet glitched there for a moment. What was I going to say? Oh, I was going to say for current grantees that are looking to do something specific to COVID, it's worth it to have a conversation with your portfolio manager. But this funding opportunity that exists right now is only for organizations that do not currently have a grant with us.
All right. There is a question about how we can find out if there are any AmeriCorps programs running in their areas.
There is a Pathfinder on our website that if you go to our AmeriCorps website, there's a link there to Pathfinder, which will kind of list all of our the areas where we have existing programs. We also have on our general organization section, there's a press release section where we have previous press announcements for grants that were awarded, and the organizations that received those awards are listed there as well. Any other questions that we can respond to today? I do want to say, if there are specific questions to the NOFO, tomorrow's session, I know we have a lot of folks that are registered. I think I saw over 300 people registered for tomorrow's session. That is the place to be. If you have specific questions related to the notice, I won't be able to address those types of questions in right now. That is for tomorrow. This session will also be repeated, I think sometime in January. If you go to our website, it lists the second round of a lot of these sessions that will be made available for folks to sign up for at a later date as well.
All right, and then Linda, if you can just reiterate where you can find the priority areas that AmeriCorps Senior is looking to support.
Any priority areas will be noted in our notice of grant opportunities or notice of funding opportunities, our NOFO. So if you go to our website, there's a tab that's for partnering organizations, and it lists, if you scroll down a little bit, it lists all of the funding opportunities, and the every funding opportunity that we ever do, it will always list a priority area. It will always list priorities for things that we're interested in taking a look at funding. That's where you get all that information. And that's across the board for anything that's funded by AmeriCorps. So if you're interested in looking at VISTA and some other types of grant making programs that we have, you can find out their priorities and their listings there as well.
And then, so I was looking through some of the questions here.
Sure.
So this is, again, also for eligibility. We received an Rsvp and an SCP grant in 2020 that is currently in operation. I want to confirm this means we are not eligible for this SDP funding opportunity.
Yeah, yes, you're not eligible for the Aarp senior demonstration opportunity.
And then if you can just one more time clarify, just because we're getting a couple of questions about that Appendix A, that if you're not listed in the counties, what does that mean in terms of your ability to apply?
Okay, the notice indicates that you can apply for any area, anywhere in the United States that you're looking to address, provide a response to a community need that has been eliminated as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Appendix A lists areas where, looking at census data and other stuff, we have identified as high poverty areas that we would like to see programming directed towards. So you can either apply for one of those areas that's listed on Appendix A, or you can apply for anywhere in the United States. This is, and like I said, this is a little bit different from other types of funding opportunities. Like, for example, for FGP or for SCP, what's listed on Appendix A is what you have to apply for, and that's the only thing we're looking for. However, with this ARP funding, we know that communities across the country have suffered as a result of this pandemic, and we want to give every opportunity for those communities to have their needs addressed. So that's the reason why it's open for anywhere in the country, but at the same time, we know that there are high poverty areas that have suffered, also greatly, that we don't have programs in. And we want folks to take a look at that. I just saw a question pop up that says, where's Appendix A? When you go to our funding opportunity, there are links there that are listed. There's a link for the NOFO. There's a link for Appendix A. And there's also a link to the Appendix B, which talks about specific performance measures that we are directing folks to use.
Alyssa, we have another question, which is which AmeriCorps grants can we apply for that do not require a match?
I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can answer that. All of our grants from AmeriCorps Seniors, there's a match requirement. You can take a look at our funding opportunity page to see what's going on with Vista or AmeriCorps State and National.
And then just also taking a look, there are a lot of questions about some things that looks like they'll be covered in the webinar tomorrow that walks through the NOFO. So we can save those ones. Hopefully you can attend our webinar for tomorrow, and that should cover a lot of the questions that are coming in about that.
See, there's a question about match. Match can be in cash or in kind.
All right, still looking through. A couple of people are asking for just examples of programs, like a general STP program, what it may look like. Let's see.
Okay, just in general, let's see if I can think of one. We have a program that uses senior volunteers to connect them with food and with food insecurity issues, connecting them with food banks and with food, connecting with the SNAP program and so forth, but also connecting them with resources around job opportunities and workforce development. That is one example of a senior demonstration program. It sounds very different from our traditional program, where for foster grandparents, we have foster grandparents that are working in the schools with children who need assistance, and they're only working with those kids. But with the SDP program, they're able to kind of branch out a little bit more and impact children, their families, and the community in a more broader way. So that's one example.
All right, we have another one. What are the regulations around non-US citizens serving either as volunteers or benefiting from the programming?
You have to be a US citizen or a permanent resident in order to be able to benefit from our programs, to receive a stipend, or to receive an education award if you're serving in a program that offers that.
Right. Does participation in an AARP program limit participation in AmeriCorps programs?
I'm sorry, what was that, Colin?
Does participation in AARP, so Aarp programs, limit participation in AmeriCorps programs?
No, if the question is, can you have multiple types of grants from our agency? And the answer is yes, you can. I saw very quickly a question that popped up about a location that wasn't listed on Appendix A in Massachusetts. There's nothing that would prohibit you, stop you from applying with a community that is not listed on Appendix A. So I don't want folks to think that just because you don't see it on there, it means that we're not interested in that location or that area. Again, you can apply anywhere in the country, What's listed on Appendix A are areas, communities that we know are no AmeriCorps Seniors programs, and they have been identified by census reports as high poverty areas. We're also looking for communities where there are Native American communities and tribes, as well as we have very few programs that are serving and operating in the U.S. territories. So that is why those areas are listed on Appendix A.
And then can you also just clarify, there's been a couple of questions about those volunteers who are 55 and over, and also veterans. Can you talk a little about that eligibility?
As long as they're over 55, they're eligible to serve in our AmeriCorps Seniors programs.
And then several questions just asking if these are federal grants with federal guidelines for accountability.
Yes, AmeriCorps is a federal agency, so you betcha we're going to have federal requirements, federal reporting, expectations.
All right, there's one. We have Rsvp and SCP programs through a nonprofit, but definitely have low income COVID issues in our area. Are we excluded from applying? So this is another question about, if they already have an AmeriCorps Seniors program, can they apply for this program even though they have low income COVID issues in their area?
Again, this this program is intended for organizations that do not have a current grant with us. We had 2 other opportunities for existing grantees to apply for Aarp funding, and those 2 opportunities are now closed. But again, this third opportunity is for organizations who do not have a current grant, who do not currently have a grant with the AmeriCorps Seniors.
This is also about the programs. Are there prerequisites to operate a senior volunteer program previously?
Prerequisites. So I think just in general, all of our programs have systems or standard operating procedures to run the program. They have staff who can serve as the director and make sure that the objectives that were articulated in the grant applications, that those objectives are met and carried out. There are, just as with any federal grant, there are financial obligations or requirements that you have to meet. We do a check to make sure that the person who's running the program is not on a exclusion parties list. I mean, just like, I'm trying to think of all the ways to answer that question, but there are requirements because this is federal money, and because this is, there are specific requirements that we expect our grantees to be able to address and be able to produce. And I'm sure many nonprofits and many of you on the phone do have standard operating procedures and staff members in place. So if you have that, then I think that this opportunity is to apply. It should be of interest to you. I just saw a question that popped up about a minimum amount. The NOFO explains in detail about the minimum amount that we're looking at funding. I don't recall the dollar amount right off the top of my head. I think it's like 100,000 or 150,000, but it's in the notice. I see a question about, can I expand on themes that should be in applications? No, I can't do that. This is a competitive grant process, so I'm not allowed to answer any questions like that. Don't want to give any unfair advantages.
Yeah, still seeing a lot of questions that are coming in that will be addressed, will hopefully addressed with tomorrow's webinar that reviews the NOFO.
Well, I hope that this presentation has kind of spurred some thoughts about the innovative ways that organizations and communities can use the senior demonstration program in general. Like I said, it is an opportunity for, organizations to kind of go beyond some of the traditional requirements of our FGP, SCP programming and Rsvp. I encourage all of you to, there's some information on our website that goes into some examples about senior demonstration programs. I encourage you to take a look at our website, learn more about our programs, learn more about our traditional programs, FGP, SCP, and Rsvp. I hope that you've learned something about our agency and the programs that we support.
All right, and then just as a quick note on that same website that we posted that lists the resources and everything for the program, that there is an FAQ document that we are updating frequently. So you can go and post that link into the main chat just so that you'll have access to it.
Great.
And then just as I'm looking through that same link that I posted there is where the link to the recording will be. There are a lot of questions asking if this is being recorded. This will be, tomorrow's webinar will be as well. As they're made available, they will be posted to that website with the link that I just added into the chat box. All right, let's see. Yes, there's still a lot of questions about who can apply. And so again, to read through the NOFO, Linda did a really good job explaining Appendix A and what that means for eligibility. So thank you for explaining that. Again, there's a lot of questions on some of those that are concerned that their organization is not listed in Appendix A, what that may mean. Linda, any other questions that you see that we may want to try and add in before we end our time here?
Let's see. I see this last question that popped up. How can an organization become an Rsvp agency? Our Rsvp programs, they have service locations or site locations where their volunteers are serving. Many of them reach out to organizations and partners in their communities to place an Rsvp volunteer. So if there is an Rsvp grant in your community that you can identify by looking on our website, you can reach out to that grantee to inquire about becoming a placement site, or your organization can apply for an Rsvp grant. Next competition for Rsvp will not be until 2025. That's when our next round for Rsvp grants will be made available. If we register for today, do we have to re-register? Oh, so each of the sessions have different links. So in order to, to hear tomorrow's session, you have to register for that particular session.
And then Luna, there is a general program question, which is definitely relevant to some of the content we just shared. It's asking if we can just speak a bit about the difference between AmeriCorps Seniors and other levels of AmeriCorps service. Is the program functionally the same as a regular AmeriCorps beyond the requirement that the volunteers be over 55?
So you mean in how's AmeriCorps Seniors different from like AmeriCorps State and National or AmeriCorps NCCC or something like that, or?
That's how I'm reading the question.
Okay.
Yeah, just about the difference in AmeriCorps Seniors and other levels of AmeriCorps service.
Okay. With the AmeriCorps State and National, anyone can serve. However, a lot of the programs traditionally are younger volunteers well, I guess they're not volunteers, they're members in AmeriCorps State and National. They receive a living allowance while they're serving. So they're serving full-time or part-time in a full-time or part-time capacity. With the AmeriCorps Seniors, all of our volunteers are over the age of 55. There's training and support specifically for volunteers over the age of 55. So I guess that's like the biggest difference there. And that also the senior volunteers are not serving in a full-time capacity the way that AmeriCorps State and National or NCCC members are volunteering.
All right, thanks. And then there's a request for clarifying what volunteer stations mean.
Volunteer stations are the locations where the volunteers show up to serve, like, for example, a soup kitchen or middle school or elementary school. Volunteer stations and service locations are kind of used interchangeably, but it's the place that volunteers are serving or placed.
And then while we're kind of talking about that with volunteers, there's a couple of questions asking about who provides volunteers. Is there help with recruiting volunteers?
So the programs do a lot of recruitment on the local level. The help that is provided from our agency is in the form of marketing materials that folks can use. But the volunteers, the organization that receives a grant and their placement locations are largely responsible for recruiting their volunteers.
All right.
Oh, 356. Let's see if we can find this question here. Kate Lindsay, 356.
Okay.
Did you find it?
Yeah, for Kate Lindsay, it's can we utilize seniors as tutors and as a chaperone on a school bus? We always need an adult on the buses we lease to go to and from our academic programs.
Not with an SDP program. That is something that you could potentially do. But with the standard FGP programming, that is not something that occurs. However, you might want to, before you come up with that program design, you want to reach out to the school systems to allow, because I'm aware that a lot of schools have liability requirements for volunteers that are serving on their buses, on the bus routes. But as an idea for an SDP program, that certainly would fit in.
All right, and then there's a couple of questions about minimum number of volunteers. Is there a minimum number of volunteers for programs?
No, there's not a minimum or maximum. Okay, I think we're at the mark. I really appreciate everyone's participation and the questions that have come in. Our goal today was to really talk about senior demonstration program and to highlight ways that we're using that and how it's connected to our AARP funding. So I really hope that the session has answered any questions as it relates to that. And we will, the focus of tomorrow's session, which I will also lead, will be on the NOFO for the AARP funding. I hope that if you still have questions about that, that you guys register for that session. And hope that everyone enjoys the rest of the day. Thank you very much.